Good morning, Proctors. This is Jamie McCoffna. I'm the testing coordinator here at Quill Hollow Middle School. Thank you for being here to Proctor for the end of grade testing. The purpose of today's training is to outline your duties as a proctor. We absolutely believe that you have the best of intentions, and we don't want you to do anything that could jeopardize the testing for students or for staff. Please listen carefully. You're welcome to follow along in the Proctor's Guide. This presentation will follow the Proctor Guide in order. A proctor is a person that is required to be in a test session with a school staff member. A proctor can be an adult monitor, it could also be a school staff member, but a proctor is going to be needed when a teacher gives a test. The proctor's primary role is to help the test administrator make sure that the test is conducted in a fair and uniform test administration. The North Carolina Testing Code of Ethics is what guides this entire process. Not only are test administrators required to adhere to the Testing Code of Ethics, but so are proctors. Proctors are also required to read the Testing Code of Ethics found in the Proctor's Guide, and you are required to sign the Testing Code of Ethics affidavit after training. That's the yellow piece of paper. Please make sure that you do sign that before you leave. The Testing Code of Ethics states that we must keep test materials secure. The test administrator's got to count and double count and triple count just to make sure that we have all of the materials that we said we did. A test administrator has to keep those materials secure at all times, and that means that you aren't allowed to handle any of those test materials. No one's allowed to copy, reproduce, paraphrase, or discuss the test material, and that includes you. So while you're walking around monitoring the test, it might be tempting to take a look at the questions, but that is a violation of the Testing Code of Ethics. In addition to those things, it's important to note that the test administrator and proctor must be trained before the test, and this training serves as your training on the Testing Code of Ethics. The test administrator and proctor must both be in the room at all times. So if a student needs to use the restroom, what do? We'll get to that in a moment, but please know that there always has to be 2 adults in a testing session. The test administrator is required to read the directions exactly as they are written in the assessment guide. And no one, not you or the test administrator, can clarify any questions or indicate answers to students. This includes on the directions as well. In addition, if there's anything that you find that might just be out of the ordinary, which we call a testing irregularity, please report that to me as soon as possible. You can do that by emailing me. My email is found on the school website. You can leave me a note in the office to give you a call, or you can call and leave me a voicemail. In addition, it's also important to protect the confidentiality of all of our students at all times. Here's some examples of things that are unethical that we really need to make sure that we report. If a student is encouraged to not do their best, if test items are being used for instruction, if someone is changing student responses, or if there's explaining or paraphrasing going on with the test directions. Some sanctions that occur if these things can happen are both civil and criminal prosecution. This is a pretty big deal. We talked about the test security for the materials, and just to make sure that we're really clear, we want to make sure that you've got some more information. Again, the proctor can't be alone with or handle any test materials. If the test administrator had to step out of the room at any time, you cannot be left alone in there. The only person that can come in would be another trained test administrator. Students cannot remove a test book or answer sheet from the test session. For example, if they need extra time and everybody else is finished. If a student is going to be taken to another room for testing, they are not allowed to take their book themselves. It must be given to a trained test administrator. Again, test books are not allowed to be read or discussed by anyone. So if you're walking around and you notice a question, I need you to not notice a question. That's hard to do, but please don't pay attention to the content that is there. And also, a test book cannot be copied. The classroom needs to be pretty uniform. We need to make sure that any distractions or interruptions are minimized. We won't be making phone calls into the test. We'll make sure that students are seated in a way that they are able to focus. The rooms must be quiet and well lit, and that's part of your duties as well. Please make sure to help the test administrator keep the students quiet during testing and make sure that the lights are on. Student desks should not have anything on them other than their test materials. The desk must be arranged to discourage cheating. As the proctor, it's important to pay attention to the test forms of the students. So if one student has a purple book, they should not be sitting next to another student with a purple book to the best of our ability. Wall displays of test-taking tips or test-related content must also be removed or covered. If you notice any of those things in the test environment, please inform the test administrator immediately. There's a serious test security issue when we have cell phones in the testing session. So we are not allowed to have cell phones for the test administrators and the proctors or the students in the testing session. What we will do is we will collect cell phones. They will be stored safely and locked in the media center during the test. When the test is over, the test administrator will turn the materials in and they will bring back all of the cell phones, including yours. If you need to run back to your car and leave your cell phone in your car, that is fine if you choose to do that, but I promise that we will keep your cell phone safe. If you need to make sure that someone can reach you during the test in case of an emergency, please give them the school telephone number. In the test session, there are lots of things that are distributed to students. They're given everything that they need, including their test booklet, their answer sheet, the white paper, the graph paper, the calculator, the pencils, anything that they need, we will provide for them. If they bring their own number 2 pencils, they are, of course, allowed to use those. Student desks must be cleared of everything before the test begins, and please understand that this includes any food or drink. The test administrator has to pass out the materials according to the directions in the script. For example, they'll say, and now I'm going to give each of you a blank sheet of paper, and then they'll pass out the blank sheet of paper. During this materials distribution, the proctors are only allowed to distribute blank white paper, blank grid paper, and pencils. Proctors are not allowed to handle answer sheets and test booklets. So now you've been told a whole lot of things that you can't do during the test, but what is it that you can do? Well, the proctor can absolutely help the student find the right place in the test book or on the answer sheet. For example, the reading and math test are both on the same answer sheet. It's important that we help students make sure that they're answering in the correct spot. The proctor and the test administrator should walk around during the entire test. Now that doesn't mean you need to pace and pace and pace. You and the test administrator should take turns. We don't want to hover over students, but we want to make sure that they understand that we're watching to make sure that everything is done just right. And again, some more things you cannot do. During the test, you should not be reading the directions to students. You cannot help students answer questions, you cannot change student responses, and you can't answer student questions. For example, if a student asks you a question, you can respond, I cannot answer your question, just do your best. So what happens if there's a student emergency? Well, the proctor and the test administrator must remain in the room absolutely at all times unless there is a real emergency. If you must leave during an emergency, please contact me. You can reach me. The front office can find me. If students have an emergency or need to go to the bathroom, they have to be escorted by a proctor or another adult. The proctor and the test administrator must stay in the room. We want to make sure that the time out of the test session is minimized for students. They can't just go and take a break. And we want to make sure that when students do need to leave the room, that they're not disruptive to others. While you're monitoring students, you should make sure that students are marking answers in the correct part of the answer sheet, that they're using a number 2 pencil, and that you're helpful to students that need some assistance. So if they need a pencil and they raise their hand and they show you that their pencil is broken, you're absolutely welcome to provide them with another pencil. If they raise their hand and they ask for a tissue, you're absolutely allowed to provide them with a tissue. Proctors should not help students or indicate answers, including telling a student to look at a question again or making a facial expression or a gesture. Please know that you cannot explain or Some of you have been asked to be a hallway monitor. If you look at your name tag and it says A Hall 1 or B Hall 1 or C Hall or D Hall, something like that, then you will be asked to be a hallway monitor. This will help us in making sure that students get to the restroom efficiently and that they're able to go when they need to go. So a hallway monitor should look for an adult to poke their head out of the door. And if you see a teacher or another proctor look for you, they're indicating that they need some help. They will probably ask you to take a student to the restroom, and you need to make sure that you're only taking one student at a time. Please don't talk to the student, don't have any conversation, whether it's related or unrelated to the test. And just send one student into the bathroom at a time. So there may be another student in there from another hallway monitor, but we only need one student in the restroom at a time, and just stand in the hall and wait for the student to finish. Others of you might be in a separate setting group with a group of students that have special needs that are documented in some sort of plan, and they have a testing accommodation. For example, it may be a read aloud where the test administrator reads all of the test out loud to the small group of students. Another accommodation that you might see is students not receiving an answer sheet because they're going to bubble, because we're going to bubble it for them, and they're going to circle their answers in their test booklet. In an accommodation test session, it might be different than what you expect, but the test administrator will let you know what's going on. And of course, if you have any questions, please ask them. And again, please make sure that you report any irregularities to me as soon as possible. Examples include not following the directions or the script on the part of the test administrator, paraphrasing of the test directions, leaving students unsupervised, giving students instruction before the test so no tutoring is allowed to occur, failing to cover or remove wall displays, giving students more time than what's prescribed, or cheating or suspected cheating. Again, please email me or call me. You can leave a note in the front office and I'll get back to you within the day. And finally, just a note about confidentiality. It is our goal to make sure that we conduct a fair test administration, and any information that you learned about students is private and cannot be shared with anyone, including the student or the student's parent. For example, anything about accommodations, test scores, specific answers to test questions, or just overall test behavior. Again, thank you so much for joining us today for proctoring for EOGs. We hope that you're joining us another day. If you are coming back for another day of proctoring, you are not required to attend this session again unless you just want to. We just ask that you report back here to the multipurpose room by 9:10. If you have any questions, please contact me. If there are other serious concerns that you have, please don't hesitate to contact the CMS testing department at the email listed above. The proctor's guide that you received today, you can absolutely take with you. That might be great reading material for you during the testing session. That is absolutely fine. But we hope that you have a great day here at Quail Hollow. And again, thank you for being here. We couldn't do it without you.